Good afternoon to you. 306 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, top of the hour, John Daniel Davidson is here from the Federalist. We will discuss Ukraine and Israel. Joe Biden all over the place on those two issues. We'll tie it up today at 4 o'clock with John. And then at 4:30, Will Scharf is here. He's a Republican candidate for Missouri Attorney General and an attorney for President Trump. We'll talk about a big case the United States Supreme Court is taking up that could result in liberty for so many January 6th suspects, detainees. More on that ahead. Winsome Sears, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, joins us as well at 5 o'clock. A big victory as the Commonwealth of Virginia takes two big sports teams away from Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Governor Sears here to take the victory lap. That's ahead, and you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Remember the old plan on congressional subpoenas? Joe Biden once said that if you defy a congressional subpoena, you should be prosecuted by the United States Department of Justice. Remember this? This is back in 2021.
He asked the president tonight, what is his response to this? What does he think of people who are defying these subpoenas? And should the Justice Department prosecute them? And this is what he told us.
I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable.
Should they be prosecuted by the Justice Department?
Yes.
Yes, they should be prosecuted. So if you defy a congressional subpoena, a prosecution is in your future. Well, what do you know? Today, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's bagman, has decided he will not appear for a congressional hearing today. In fact, he's so brazen he went to Congress to make the announcement. He was standing outside of the congressional building to make the announcement today that he was openly defying a congressional subpoena. Nope. A deposition? No, I don't want to do that. I'm demanding a different format for my hearing if I'm going to do it at all. Otherwise, no, I'm not doing it. And you don't get that choice. That's not the way a congressional subpoena works. They send it to you, you appear. And if you don't, contempt of Congress for you. That's the consequence. There's a little bit. Let's start with Hunter today. Hunter arrives at Congress and in what is obviously a highly scripted moment, one that we now believe the White House may have had a hand in actually writing because just moments ago during the press briefing, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about this, Coringe, and she straight up said that Joe Biden was aware of what Hunter Biden was going to say, but she refused to give any more detail about whatever hand he or anybody else around him may have had in this statement. But it's important to pay attention to the language because a lot of lawyers are getting involved here. And Hunter Biden is now heavily qualifying his statements about his father's involvement in the family business. Let's begin with this first cut. This is Hunter claiming that he was here for a public hearing today. No such hearing was even scheduled. Nobody subpoenaed him for a hearing like this. Here's his statement today.
I'm here today to answer at a public hearing any legitimate questions Chairman Comer and the House Oversight Committee may have for me. I'm here today to make sure that the House Committee's illegitimate investigations of my family do not proceed on distortions, manipulated evidence, and lies.
Yeah, so again, we begin with a lie. There was no public hearing scheduled for today. There was nothing like that. Hunter Biden was too, just like every other witness called before this committee. Regardless of whether Democrats or Republicans run it, they sit for depositions first. That's how it works. You sit for a deposition. Republicans have even said, yes, we'd be happy to schedule a public hearing after that. But first, a deposition. First, expert questioners, interrogators, have an opportunity to probe the witness, in this case, Hunter Biden. Hunter says he was here for a hearing that didn't exist today. So, again, defying the congressional subpoena. Nobody came up to him and were like, hey, you're mistaken. It's not a public hearing. It's a deposition. Oh, okay, I'll go in. No, he just refused to show.
And in the depths of my addiction, I was extremely irresponsible with my finances. But to suggest that is grounds for an impeachment inquiry is beyond the absurd.
He was so irresponsible, he was selling access to the United States government. Oh, my bad. It was just a mistake. And he got his father involved extensively in those activities. His dad was happy to play along. The guy who's supposedly concerned about Hunter Biden's drug addictions was happy to be there all along, helping him in his irresponsibility with his finances.
It's shameless. There is no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business
Okay, that's a huge addition to these sentences. Now, I still think this is a lie for him to say that his father wasn't financially involved. But when was the last time you heard him make a qualified defense of his father's involvement? He's now injecting the word financially into his defenses. Where did we start? We started with Joe Biden claiming he was unaware of his son's business dealings. That's where we started, and the goalposts have been driven all over the stadium. In fact, they've been sent to another city. They're not even on the same field anymore. The claim was that he had no knowledge of his son's business dealings. He never talked to any of his son's business partners. In fact, Hunter Biden never even made money from China. Remember that? He said on a debate stage that my son never made money from this. What is he talking about, China? When, in fact, of course, he did. We're talking millions of dollars. Some of which we know, thanks to the checks that have been obtained by congressional investigators, went to Joe Biden. So here's Hunter today adding a qualifier to his defense. My father wasn't financially involved in my business. Of course, his dad was on the phone routinely, helping to grease the skids to get the Biden family paid handsome rewards. He was at various dinners with all of these business partners of the family, to include right here in Washington, D.C., including while he was vice president of the United States. They went to Cafe Milano in Georgetown and had a very fancy dinner with all of Hunter's business partners, the family business partners. There's no evidence my father was involved financially.
For an impeachment inquiry is beyond the absurd. It's shameless. There's no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business because it did not happen.
All right, and so the defense that the Biden family has summoned is one that, of course, won't surprise you because you've heard them make it a lot, which is leave Brittany alone. Leave Hunter alone. Don't you pick on poor Hunter. He's just being needlessly beat up, and he didn't ask for any of this. He's innocent. It's basically like he's like a child actor who was just exploited for everybody else's wealth and success. Hunter, poor Hunter.
For 6 years, MAGA Republicans, including members of the House committees who are in a closed-door session...
In case you're wondering if the White House was involved in writing this.
...right now, have impugned my character, invaded my privacy, attacked my wife, my children, my family.
How many children do you have? Be specific.
And my friends. They have ridiculed my struggle with addiction. They have belittled my recovery. And they have tried to dehumanize me, all to embarrass and damage my father.
Wow! That's the response from Hunter Biden. They're picking on me. They're picking on me. Look, kid, this has never been about you. It is about you insofar as you're the bagman for the family, but it's always been about Joe's corruption. There are all sorts of dirty people around Washington. A lot of family members connected to various members of Congress, various elected officials who deserve a lot more scrutiny because of the way that they're wearing out their access to the government. But there's no question that there's an actual scandal at the center of this involving an actual elected official who is actually currently the president of the United States. So spare us the sob stories and stop hiding behind them. Hunter, once again, offers the same qualifier as he describes his dad's involvement.
My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he's listing it out. He may as well be writing in the indictment. I was connected to Ukraine. I was connected to China. I was connected.
Not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist.
To what extent is any of this being discovered by the left for the first time as Hunter lays all of this out? Yeah, I was doing business with corrupt governments in Ukraine and China. I'm selling artwork, pretending I don't know who the buyers are. They're just buying access to the Bidens. Man. Hunter Biden additionally says, hey, I told them my terms. The only way I'm doing this hearing is if it's in public. That's the only way. And once again, it's not up to you, buddy. Just because your last name's Biden doesn't mean you get to dictate the way Congress acts. By the way, speaking of that, haven't all these January 6 people been charged with obstruction of congressional proceedings? Right? They obstructed the good and holy work, the constitutional work of the United States Congress. What did Hunter Biden do today? Right? What did Hunter Biden do? Did he obstruct anything today? Well, yeah, he actually explicitly obstructed a congressional investigation. Specifically, they were trying to dig into the Biden family's business arrangements, and Hunter's decided he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to do it. So this is, this is pretty rich coming from Hunter Biden. And I've got a news update for you on the obstruction of congressional proceedings coming up. The United States Supreme Court is taking up a case now in this term on that very thing, whether or not January 6th suspects are even capable of being charged under this law that was designed to go after white-collar criminals in the wake of the Enron scandal. It was basically for, destroying paperwork that was related to congressional investigations, that you'd be charged with it. You could serve up to 20 years in prison as a result of that. And here you have, basically, here you have a United States Supreme Court saying, wait a second, this law might not apply to the January 6 people. And let me add one other. It may not apply to Donald Trump. Jack Smith right now is charging Donald Trump with the same exact violation of the law for encouraging people to patriotically and peacefully make their voices heard on January 6th. He's charging him right now with that felony. So this is a massive case that we await before the United States Supreme Court. Now, Hunter Biden, let me see here. I'm going to play some more audio for you here. Actually, as I'm playing this audio, I should point out, one of my monitors just went down where I can see my audio. It just blacked out. I don't know why, but let's see what this sounds like. And we can, of course, play it, of course. All right, so this is a problem I'm running into at the moment. Let's see. We're going to unplug that monitor in the hopes that some other monitor bails me out. This is deeply unfortunate. So, all right, I'll just summarize it then. In sans audio for the moment. So Hunter Biden steps out in front of Congress today and says, hey, I'm not doing this. I'm defying a congressional subpoena. He doesn't say those words, but that's what he did. And so now here's where we go. Jim Jordan and James Comer are beginning contempt of Congress proceedings against Hunter Biden for this. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer and House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan announced today their intention to initiate contempt of Congress proceedings against Hunter Biden. Comer and Jordan released a statement on Hunter Biden's failure to appear for a scheduled deposition in defiance of a subpoena from the Oversight Committee, the Daily Caller reporting here. The Republican lawmakers said they will begin contempt of Congress proceedings, and they pointed to Hunter Biden's behavior as why the House should vote to strengthen the impeachment inquiry into Hunter Biden. Into President Joe Biden. Hunter Biden today defied lawful subpoenas, and we will now initiate contempt of Congress proceedings. We will not provide special treatment because his last name is Biden, Comer and Jordan stated. So now they're saying, hey, look, it's time to go after him. In fact, my audio has returned, so therefore you can hear this. Here's James Comer saying that Hunter doesn't get to dictate the terms of how he testifies before Congress.
This is an investigation about public corruption at the highest levels of our government. The American people expect Congress to investigate this because I think one thing that Chairman Jordan's proven is the FBI, the DOJ, and the IRS, as we've heard from the whistleblowers, have all dropped the ball. So the House Oversight, House Judiciary Committee are conducting this credible investigation that an overwhelming majority of Americans want. We have specific questions for the president's son. He does not get to dictate the terms of this subpoena.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now, Jim Jordan also noticed what I was noticing, that Hunter Biden has added this word financially to his qualified now defense of his father. And here's what Jim Jordan had to say today.
I would just point out I've had a chance now to review what Hunter Biden said in his press conference. And I think he made an interesting statement. He said his father was not financially involved in the business. And I think that qualifier, the word financially, is important because once again it shows another change in this story. First it was no involvement, then no, I never talked to anyone, and then we find out about the dinners, the meetings, the phone calls, and everything else. Now it's he wasn't involved in the business financially. I think that is important. It's one of the reasons we want to talk to Hunter Biden.
And how narrow is that term financially? Like, this is one of those, it depends on what the definition of is, right? The old Bill Clinton defense. What do they mean by financially when Hunter Biden summons that as a defense? And he's got very high-paid lawyers around him who are helping him craft all of this language. What does he mean? Does he mean that Joe didn't finance the business? That he didn't lend him money specifically for some aspect of his business? Does he mean he wasn't the financial beneficiary of all of this? I can say one thing with certainty. The Biden family is lying. Joe just lied this past week, yet again, for the umpteenth time, about his awareness and connection to and conversations with and involvement with the family's business partners. So lies are a feature of this scandal. And as they are so many scandals.
Is the president okay with his son defying a congressional subpoena?
I'm just not going to get into specifics on that. I would have to refer you to the president's, not the president, but Hunter's personal representatives. He's a private citizen. I'm just not going to get into it.
Yeah, no, I can't really address that, Corinne says today. But wait a second. Hasn't Joe Biden previously said that if you defy a congressional subpoena, you should be prosecuted? The Daily Mail's Rob Crilly asked about that.
Okay, and you asked what the president, what his stance was on people who defy congressional subpoenas. In 2021, he was asked that question specifically and said that he believed the Justice Department should prosecute them. Is that still his position for people?
I don't have anything to add to what you just quoted me from the president. I just don't have anything to add.
Yeah, no, I can't really add anything to that. He was indeed asked about this.
He asked the president tonight, what is his response to this? What does he think of people who are defying these subpoenas? And should the Justice Department prosecute them? And this is what he told us.
I hope that the committee goes after them and holds them accountable.
Should they be prosecuted by the Justice
Department?
Department?
Yes.
Yeah, well, let's see. Let's see just how much corruption we can suss out of this Biden administration as we watch the Justice Department once again cover up for the Bidens. That's ahead. Also, your calls coming up next. Good afternoon to you. 3:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, John Daniel Davidson from The Federalist is here. We talk Ukraine and Israel with him. Will Scharf is here at 4:30, Republican candidate for Missouri Attorney General and an attorney for President Trump. There's a big case headed to the United States Supreme Court. It could mean freedom for so many January 6 defendants long suffering. And also, it could mean a charge dropped for Donald Trump. It's a big deal. And Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears of the Commonwealth of Virginia joins us at 5 o'clock today, as Virginia apparently has secured a victory in moving a couple of major sports teams to that state. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Let's see here. We've got all the Hunter Biden news today. Hunter Biden defied the subpoena this morning from Congress. It looks like contempt of Congress proceedings are underway against him. Also, we await right now whether or not there will be, it looks like there will be, the formalization of the impeachment inquiry. Now, let's not overstate what this is, because I do feel like the media, everything's always like stripped entirely of context, and they don't tell you much about it. The truth is, we've already had an impeachment inquiry underway. It's not an official impeachment proceeding. It's been an impeachment inquiry. It's been a combo of the Judiciary Oversight and Ways and Means Committees. So this has already been happening now for months. It was announced in September. Remember, Kevin McCarthy was then Speaker of the House, oh so long ago. And he announced that he was directing the House committees to open up a formal impeachment inquiry. But the one thing he didn't do was do a floor vote from members of Congress in order to, quote, formalize it. So what's happening today appears to be the floor vote to formalize it. That is the only distinction here. The actual effort underway doesn't change at all. These committees continue to plug along and try and dig up information on the Biden family and how they made all that money, tens of millions of dollars, at least. But that's it. That's the only thing. And so the one claim that they're making, the reason they need to formalize this inquiry is they say that it will give them more power when they're in front of a judge, when they're conducting these judicial proceedings to try and pull documents out of the federal branch, out of the executive branch, and in order to compel more of these subpoenas and things like that. Is that true? I don't know. I still don't know. I mean, to what extent, if it's a Biden-Obama judge who's considering this, like, what are the chances they prevail in court just because they got the floor vote? I'll believe it when I see it. But at least today, Republicans taking that floor vote to formalize the impeachment inquiry. In the midst of all of this, a lot of drama, though. Hunter Biden refusing to honor the subpoena and standing up today and saying, my father wasn't financially involved in my business. And, just basically thumbing his nose at Congress, for which he is now going to be considered in contempt of Congress, it appears. Let me bring in some calls here. 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Kevin in Manassas, line 1. Kevin, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, good afternoon, Vince. I just couldn't help being sick to my stomach listening to that pathetic human being stand up there today and give his speech and just have, number one, to have the temerity to show up at the Senate and, like you said, thumb his nose at the American people and at Congress who's investigating him, trying to get to the bottom of his family's corruption. Where's the Leslie Stalls every time, Trump did an interview and they questioned something that he said, interrupting these people saying, well, no, the Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and all of his people say there's no evidence, yet there's a mountain the size of Mount Everest of evidence against these people, but yet they get away with it. They do it cavalierly. They lie so easily and just sit there and just flick off the American people because they know they're never going to get in trouble for it because they've got the mainstream media in their pocket and on their side, and it's just sickening. One of the things Joe Biden doesn't say very many things that make sense or actually true or mean anything, but he says, America, this election is for the soul of America, and he is absolutely right because the demons who are running this country, the demonically possessed people, these morally bankrupt souls who are running this country and are in the mainstream media who will just lie and cheat and steal for anything. And, I'm 51 years old. I guess I want to think when I was younger that the leaders of our country weren't this way. I'm sure there was corruption. Right. But as I grew up, I always thought these people had some character and some morals. And, this country is in trouble. If this is the leader of our country, no wonder there are 12-year-olds carjacking people and killing people who have no respect for life and property or law and order because the guy that runs the damn country is a crook.
Kevin, you said a lot, and you're right. At the top, we have people who have a brazen disrespect for the decency of this country. They'll straight up lie to your face in the most theatrical way possible. Joe Biden, just this past week, lying to the press. Stephen Nelson asking him a question from the New York Post about his contact with all of the family's many business partners, and he said it didn't happen. He just lies about it. And then he lies about the state of the economy, lies about the state of the border. He lies about whose fault it is that it's all collapsing. It's just lie upon lie upon lie. And I hope a lot of people are waking up, Kevin, and have the same intensity that you do, because that's what it's going to take to preserve this country. I appreciate your call as always, Kevin. You have a good one. You too. And now on Kevin's point, he reminded me, where is the Leslie Stahl interview with Joe Biden? We're like, no, that's not true. That's not true. Remember the Leslie Stahl with Donald Trump? Remember this? So Leslie Stahl, when Donald Trump brought up Hunter Biden, she instantly ran cover.
I wish you would interview Joe Biden like you interview me. It would be so good. You know what?
You like this, I thought. I thought you liked
I don't mind it. But when I watch him walk out of a store, and he's walking with ice cream, and the question the media asks him, what kind of ice cream, what flavor ice cream do you have? And he's in the midst of a scandal.
He's not.
And he's taking...
He's
of course
not.
he is,
No.
Leslie.
Come on.
Of course he is. It's the biggest, second biggest scandal.
So,
the biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign,
there's
Leslie.
no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
It's all over the place. Leslie,
Sir.
they spied on my campaign, and
this was done late in his presidency, and so there was overwhelming evidence of these things.
Can I say something? You know, this is 60 Minutes, and we can't put on things we can't verify.
You won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't put on things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify
It's been totally verified.
No.
It was 100% verified. They, using an authorization, using a power that Congress is about to re-up, they spied on Carter Page, including his emails from his time on the campaign. They spied on Donald Trump's presidential campaign. There is not a question in the world about this.
Just go down and get the papers. They spied on my campaign. They got caught.
No.
And then they went much further than that.
She just doesn't even have an answer. She just goes, no.
And they got caught. And you will see that, Leslie. And you know that, but you just don't want to put it on the air.
As a matter of fact, I don't know that.
Okay, your ignorance is not an excuse. That's not, you can't use that as a... We can't air it because I'm too stupid to know that detail. Anyway, that's what it used to be like. They certainly don't interrupt Joe. They're sitting around going, wait a second, you're lying to us. I still haven't seen a single question. Maybe I missed it from anybody in the press corps saying, why did Joe Biden lie to us? Why is Joe Biden lying? Not a single one. They did a whole press briefing today, and there were questions about, will Hunter honor a congressional subpoena? What should happen to people who don't? Those are fine. You can ask those questions, but why is Joe Biden lying to us all the time? How about that one? That's a legitimate question. It's not in any way loaded. It's not honestly, I'm telling you, I'm not asking this from a partisan perspective as much as I have a partisan position on this. You should ask. If you're a member of the press corps, you should ask, unless you're perfectly happy being lied to, which I guess many are. But why is he lying to us so frequently? Sam is calling in from Alexandria, line 2. Sam, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. I was thinking as I was listening to your opening monologue, you know what? There's a lot of Congress people that listen to your show, I'm sure. And I'm thinking we should line them up with a bunch of questions that they can get HB when they finally get him in front of them, that they could that he can't plead the fifth. Sir, could you explain to us what is your business and what is your role in that business? And what is your expertise that allowed you to gain that type of financial, the finances that you do in bringing that capability, that talent, whatever you have, to your customer? And oh, by the way, who are your customers? Who are your employees? I mean, my gosh, I'm not even an attorney, and I could just think of a few questions that would just rip a new one.
Right. In other words, start with the basics. Like, who are you?
Oh, yeah.
Why would any of these companies want to hire you? What service could you possibly provide to them? And please be specific.
Yeah. And how did they find out? How did you get picked out of LinkedIn to work for them? My gosh, it'd be like, so much low-hanging fruit to where it's like, okay, well, tell me why would you plead the fifth on something like that? Because as soon as he does start pleading the fifth, then you get in front of the news media and say, here are the questions. Here's where he pleaded the fifth. Because I think somebody in the past did something like that.
Right.
And you just sat there and shook your head like, seriously, you can't answer what your middle name is? Or
he's afraid.
Really
yeah.
bizarre.
If he gave us his middle name, it might incriminate him. So that's why he pled the fifth. That's like insane.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right, Sam.
Yeah. And who has evaluated that your art is worth the money that you are getting paid? And why would somebody do that? And from an artist perspective, please.
Yeah, and be honest. You really don't know who the buyer is? Go ahead. It's like, lie to our faces. You don't know who bought your artwork, please. That's insane.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. Thank you. A lot of good basic questions that these guys should ask, and I hope they do. I hope they take your advice.
Yeah.
On this question, of what Sam is raising about what services did Biden provide? Well, the IRS whistleblowers have been providing a ton of detail to Congress about the stuff that they've discovered, and you wouldn't be surprised to find out that Hunter Biden provided nothing of value except for his father. That's where all the dots keep leading. Now, they didn't say those words explicitly, but here's a headline for you. Daily Caller. Chinese business associate paid Hunter Biden $1 million for non-existent legal services, documents show. He got paid $1 million to be an attorney and to provide no legal services whatsoever. Now, if you were an IRS investigator, your job is to look into this stuff. Would this raise a red flag for you? He was provided $1 million for what? What was the deliverable? Literally nothing. What do you mean nothing? How did he get paid $1 million? This guy was just generous? Hunter Biden's former Chinese business associate, Patrick Ho, paid him $1 million. The Ho doesn't usually pay the million. But in this case, Patrick Ho paid Hunter $1 million for apparent legal services that were never performed, newly released documents show. Ho and Hunter Biden signed an attorney engagement letter in September of 2017, where Ho agreed to pay Hunter Biden $1 million as a retainer for future legal services, according to a copy of the engagement letter released December 5th by the House Ways and Means Committee. A former executive at the defunct Chinese infrastructure firm CEFC, federal authorities arrested Ho in November 2017 on bribery charges related to his work for CEFC. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York prosecuted Ho, and Hunter Biden was not included as an attorney on the case record. IRS whistleblower Joseph Ziegler said in an affidavit disclosed by the House Ways and Means Committee, quote, Hunter Biden is not included as an attorney on record for the Patrick Ho case in the Southern District of New York. This engagement letter related to the $1 million allegedly paid for the legal representation of Patrick Ho, Ziegler stated. The $1 million payment was paid to Hunter Biden and his entity, Owasco LLC, on or about March 22, 2018, 9 days prior to Hunter Biden leaving for California for his self-proclaimed exile, Ziegler added. So he got $1 million 9 days before he bailed on the world and went to California for his self-proclaimed exile, and he provided no legal services whatsoever to his Ho. Not a single, he didn't review any legal documents, nothing. Hunter Biden's failed guilty plea agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Delaware shows Ho sent him $1 million in March 2018. The plea agreement says Hunter provided Ho legal services, a statement Ziegler believes misrepresents the nature of the payment. Quote, based on the evidence obtained as a part of the investigation, it is believed that the $1 million payment was not for legal fees and was misrepresented in the failed plea agreement. So, as Democrats keep insisting, there's no evidence of any wrongdoing. Nobody's accused of any wrongdoing. Why did Hunter Biden take $1 million from his Ho and give him nothing? Give him absolutely nothing. It's quite a deal. It's quite a deal. $1 million. Yeah. Hunter Biden appearing today to make a public statement that seems pretty obviously was written by the White House.
For 6 years, MAGA Republicans, including members of the House committees who are in a closed-door session right now, have impugned my character.
Yeah, those MAGA Republicans. Sounds like a Joe Biden speech. Greg's in Manassas, line 1. Greg, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Hey, Vince, thanks for taking my call. I just want to say, you got some good calls coming in, especially that guy Kevin. And I just want to say that when you're okay with killing babies, you can do or say anything you want and with no moral consequences for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's such a good point. It's like when you've rationalized killing off children, killing babies off, you can pretty much rationalize anything at that point. And we're seeing it in action, aren't we, Greg?
Absolutely.
Every day. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good reminder. A good, unfortunate reminder of the state of affairs right now. Hey, John Daniel Davidson is going to be with us just minutes from now. We'll talk about yesterday, a wild day yesterday, as Biden says we need to spend a lot more on Ukraine, and his patience is running out with Israel. I'm sorry, what? What is that framework exactly? John Daniel Davidson reacts moments from now.